Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start with a new topic, the principles of natural selection. And the book is Ember and Ember. So natural selection is the main process that increases the frequency of adaptive traits through time. So let's have a look at these concepts. First one is adaptive traits. Second, it's a frequency. And the third dimension is time. So the concept is all forms of life, all forms of organic life in this universe, they proceed from one generation to the next via reproduction. And reproduction, it can be sexual or asexual. Sexual or asexual. And reproduction itself means to make copies of oneself. So an organism transmit oneself by making its copies. It's like the concept of cellular division or mitosis, in which non-gamete cells, they divide themselves into two. This concept, one cell, it divides into two, then two into four, and the process goes on. So in the same way, in this world, organic life, it tries to copy itself, but that copy, it is not exact copy. We can say it is an inexact copy because of variations that an individual, he or she acquires in one's life. This is the total concept of natural selection. Now coming back to where we started, so all organic life, they reproduce themselves, and those reproduced organisms, they are inexact copies of themselves. Then three concepts that we need to look at. First one is the adaptive traits. Second, frequency. So let's have a look at adaptive traits. The concept is very clear about it. Adaptive trait means those traits that help in adaptation. Help in adaptation, or in short, they help in survival. So it's better to call them survivable traits. फिर भी adaptive traits are those traits that help in survival of an organism. फिर frequency की बात करते हैं. Adaptive traits समझ में आ गया, those traits that help in survival. Then frequency is the number of times such adaptive traits appear in a population. लेकिन ये सारे concepts, ये दोनों concepts हैं, how they are related to natural selection, उसका जवाब जो है, I have given in the introduction itself, that reproduction is the method by which organic life propagate itself, transmit itself, and by reproduction we means organisms, they make copies of themselves, and those are inexact copies. Why? Because of the variations that are integrated into such organisms or population during their lifetime. So this one is the new dimension here. How are those variations acting upon the copies or acting upon the individual when they are in reproductive phase? So this concept is nature or environment, it holds immense power, and we are also children, we are also product of this nature. We are also one such life form in the whole milieu of natural organisms. And the second thing, nature is dynamic. nature is dynamic because time is in forward motion. That's a physical concept, but that is also related to biology. So time is a forward concept. So time moves in a forward direction, because of which dynamism is there, changes are there, and this changer is the property of nature. Nature is also dynamic. So because of this dynamic nature of dynamism of time, there are changes in all phenomena, changes in all phenomena, which include physical, chemical, and geographical phenomena. और उन changes की वजह से, again, stay with me, because nature or environment is a powerful thing. We are product of it, and nature is dynamic because time is a forward concept. And because of this dynamism of time, there are changes in physical, chemical, and geographical phenomena. And because of such changes, अब बारी आती है organisms की. Organisms, they need to adapt, क्योंकि the nature, the environment, the geophysical phenomena, the chemical phenomena, the atmosphere, all are going to change. And if organisms need to survive, they need to adapt. So that's why this concept, the concepts of natural selection, it starts with the adaptive traits. So in order to adjust with, or in order to stay in course with the changing nature, species, they need to adapt. And the appearance of such adaptive traits and its frequency, it is called natural selection. Because ऐसा लगता है that nature is uh, taking us for a testing ride and then selecting those who fit the bill. Well, this is a figurative term. There is no evidence of such entity as nature who is selecting people or screening people for their best features. But the whole idea is that nature is changing, and to stay in course with, to cope up with the changing nature, organisms, they need to adapt. And they will adapt when they will have adaptive traits, or those traits that help in their survival. So those resilient and hardy traits, they keep hardy traits, they keep appearing in a population, and those species, those organisms that have those traits will be selected. It means they will survive. Again, stay with me. Changing nature, and to cope with it, organisms, they need to adapt, and they will adapt with the presence of adaptive traits, and those adaptive traits are always in a population. And because of presence of those adaptive traits, any organism and its lineage, it will survive. So if an organism survive, it's obvious that the organism will reproduce. So if reproduce, this organism will have more offspring. More offspring, it means the gene of this particular organism will survive and will proliferate. And those organisms that do not have those adaptive traits, they will not survive, they will perish, and their lineage will not survive as well, their offspring will not be there, and their gene will not be transmitted into the contours of this universe. That's the whole situation, and this is called natural selection. This is the concept in short. Now let's come back to the chapter. Next, the operation of natural selection, it involves three conditions or three principles. The first one is variation. Every species is composed of great variety of individuals, some of which are better adapted to environment than others. So this one is the first principle, Let's look at in detail. So the first principle is variation. So for the natural selection to act, variations need to be there. अगर वेरिएशन नहीं होंगे तो सेलेक्ट कौन होगा? इट मीन if समझिए कि nature is changing, time is changing, dynamism is there, geophysical phenomena itself they got changed, but variations ही नहीं है तो selection का concept it will not be there. फिर जो भी stock of population है either it will survive as a whole or perish altogether. दोनों में से एक सिचुएशन होगी. So variations होते हैं तभी उनमें से some of them who have better adaptive traits they are likely to be screened out. So variation first condition natural selection की variation है क्या? Let's have a look at it. हर कोई population of every species it is composed of organisms and सारे organisms जो होते हैं all of them they have some variations in their genotype and phenotype. Genotype and phenotype. So genotype is all of their genes, all genes, and phenotype is the outward expression. So in short, genes it is the repetition of DNA units which is hidden from clear sight, whereas phenotype it is expressible. We can see the expression by ourselves. Let's take the example of dog's muzzle. अब डॉग की मजल के लिए दे विल बी सम जेनेटिक कोड जो भी उसका डीएनए कोड होगा लाइक ए टी टी सी जी टी टी ए जी सी ऐसे ही रिपीटेटिव यूनिट जो हैं वो मिलकर जीन्स बनाती है डीएनए इन इटसेल्फ इट इज you can say a faceless and sterile component and it just keep repeating itself but उसी डीएनए यूनिट की sections कुछ section they code for something and that code for something that thing is some characteristic so those repetitive units some section of which for example किसी particular species का डीएनए एक से लेकर 10,000 repeating unit तक है एंड फिर फॉर एग्जांपल 21st यूनिट से लेकर 61st यूनिट तक इट्स दिस कोड इज अबाउट डॉग्स मसल अब there is nothing specific about the 21st and the 61st DNA code. They are just repetitive units. But ये section जो है ये this codes for some characteristic then it becomes a gene. ये हम बाद में जीन वाले चैप्टर में पढ़ेंगे. So genotype is the composition of all genes and genes themselves are repetitions of DNA. Then let's this one 21st to 61 this is a gene so this forms a part of the genotype and because of this sequence there is an expression and that got expressed in the form of dog's muzzle so this becomes a phenotype in the same way like the shape of your nose so हमारे ही कोड में let's say कोई सीक्वेंस हो गई for take the example of 112th to 742 42nd अब इसके बीच में कोई सेक्शन है it codes for the shape of nose and then this section it becomes a gene for nose and this unit will become a part of genotype and then its expression the shape of your nose it becomes a phenotype so genotype and phenotype समझ में आ गया so every species it will have some variations in their genotype and phenotypes और वो variations होते हैं आप आसपास हर जगह you can see everywhere. You can see the stripes of tigers. Tigers सारे एक जैसा दिखते हैं. But when you look closer, you will see the differences in their stripes. और ऐसे ही दुनिया में all the organisms, for all forms of life, they have some variations in them. कुछ variations they may be in genotype, in genes जो नहीं दिख पाते, and some variation they may will be in phenotype जो clearly visible है, distinguishable है. So let's say difference between Mexican and an African. अब वो दोनों के अंदर you can clearly make the differences. But same, you take two North Korean students, North Korean toddlers. अब उनके बीच में you cannot make out the difference, but difference is still there. So my point is that every organism, it is born with some variations. अब let's say ये species हैं A, B, C, D, E, F. इसके ये total 6 organisms हैं इस species में. A hypothetical situation. And now nature got changed, and nature is always changing. Dynamism is the core characteristic of nature. So nature got changed, and because of this change, अब इनमें से ये टोटल सिक्स ऑर्गेनिजम्स हैं. अब सर्वाइवल किसका होगा? हु इज गोइंग टू ट्रांसमिट his or her own gene to the next generation? It depends on the characteristic that are inherent or that are acquired by each of these organisms. So let's say, let's take a scale, and the scale is of ice age. अगर आपको पता नहीं हो, the earth has repetitively gone through a cycle of ice age and followed by interglacial age. हम खुद भी the homo sapien, हम खुद भी अभी एक interglacial stage में ही हैं. So all in all, this cyclical phenomena of ice age and interglacial ages, it has followed many a times. And in this hypothetical situation of 6 organisms of a particular population, let's suppose they are in an ice age. A new ice age has started, and in order to survive, they need to have the adaptive traits. अब ice age के adaptive traits क्या होते हैं? एक सिंपल बायोफिजिकल फिनोमिना जो है आइस एज का, या फिर जब कोल्ड टेम्परेचर्स होते हैं, टेम्परेचर दैट आई इन द रेंज ऑफ -40 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड टू 3 or 4 डिग्री 3 to 5 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड. सो इस टेम्परेचर रेंज में जो कि बहुत ही कम है, इट्स कॉल्ड कोल्ड कंडीशन. ऐसे में कौन से अडेप्टिव ट्रेट्स हैं जो सर्वाइव करेंगे? सो फर्स्ट is stocky build. The second one is fat, subcutaneous fat, or in short, a heavy person. And third one is short height. Fourth one is fairer or lighter skin complexion. So ये चार traits होते हैं, adaptive traits that are necessary to survive the ice age. अब ये 6 persons हैं. अब इनके genetic composition में they are likely कुछ ना कुछ variation तो होंगी. Let's say A is tall and black, B is short and fair, C is intermediate and mixed, D is short but thin, E heavy but black, and E is short and mixed. So एक hypothetical situation है, and these are the genotype and phenotype, these are the traits of these individuals. अब सर्वाइव कौन करेगा? फर्स्ट, टॉल एंड ब्लैक. अब ये तो these are not adaptive traits, and these physical traits, they are not likely to survive in so thousands of years of ice age. So this trait, it is going to perish. So lineage of A will not be there. अब इस इनमें से बचे 5 लोग. Then B, with the characteristics short and fair, this individual, he is likely to be the model person for the ice ages. Then intermediate height and mix. So the survivability or the chances are less, but still there are some chances, there is still some hope. And उसकी situation tall and black जैसी नहीं है. Then the short and thin, again short height तो ठीक है, but thin, less weight, but ice age में survive करने के लिए you need to have excess body fat so that you can preserve heat. And ऐसी situation में ये वाली lineage less chances. Then E person heavy and black. अब heaviness है means body heat survive कर सकती है, but black skin complexion, still chances are there, so average chances. Then this one short height है and of mixed range, average chances. So out of these 6, this is the model species. Then it will be followed by second person, third person. So this is how nature will select. Now coming back to where we started. So variations इस तरह से A will not survive, B will survive, C has less chances, let's say 20% chances, and F will survive, D will survive, E will not survive. This is how nature is going to select 3 out of 6. And again, those B6, B, C, D, these population or whoever they are selected, such population, they were likely to reproduce and produce more offspring. और जो select नहीं होते हैं, they are eliminated from the gene population. So ये species जो हैं, जो that are not fit for particular age, they will be ejected out of the system. So this is how the natural selection work, and variation is its first principle. Then answer इसका दिया हुआ है, the existence of variety is important. Variety होनी ज़रूरी है, because without it natural selection will have nothing on which to operate. Variations ही नहीं है, तो then if population is ditto similar or homogeneous, then situation वही है कि जैसे ही nature change होगा, either the whole population gets selected or they are ejected. That's the rule. Without variations, one kind of characteristic could not be favored over another. So जैसे हमने देखा था कि ice age है, तो then the fatty, short and stocky build है, it is a kind of characteristic that should be ideal for ice age. And अगर variation ही नहीं होगा, सारे एक जैसे हैं, then there will be nothing to favor over. So in that situation, in that hypothetical example, the stocky and fatty build, it was selected over the tall and the black one. Then the second principle of natural selection is heritability. The offspring inherit traits from the parents at least to some degree and some way. अब इसका explanation तो ज़रूरी नहीं लग रहा है, because heritability आप समझ रहे हैं, एक पेरेंट्स हैं, mother and father, देन पेरेंट्स हैं तभी तो उनके चिल्ड्रन हैं, एंड चिल्ड्रन तभी होंगे जब जीन्स जो हैं वो ट्रांसमिट हो रहे हैं. सो हेरिटेबिलिटी इज मैकेनिज्म बाय विच genes or characteristic of one generation are transmitted to the another generation. So this again is important principle of natural selection, क्योंकि if species are not reproducing then there will be nothing to select against. अगर particular species हैं and they are not reproducing, फिर तो कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं, फिर कोई नेचुरल सिलेक्शन का क्वेश्चन ही नहीं है. Then the third principle is differential reproduction और differential reproductive success. अब ये वाला वापस उस hypothetical example के थ्रू देखते हैं. The third principle, differential reproductive success. It means कुछ characteristics हैं जिनका सर्वाइवल बेटर होता है. सो उनको हम अडेप्टिव ट्रेट्स बोलते हैं. दोज अडेप्टिव ट्रेट्स है वो बेटर सर्वाइवेबिलिटी, एंड बेटर सर्वाइवेबिलिटी मीन्स दे विल हैव बेटर रिप्रोडक्टिव सक्सेस. सो जिनके पास वो ट्रेट्स हैं दे विल बी बेटर एबल टू रिप्रोड्यूस, एंड जिनके पास नहीं है दे विल नॉट बी गुड एट रिप्रोडक्शन. दे विल नॉट बी एबल टू कीप अ सर्वाइविंग पॉपुलेशन ऑफ ऑफस्प्रिंग. ये दूसरे टर्म से समझते हैं. Let's take a very simple situation. Same ice age, and there are two persons. One is short, fair, and heavy. Another is tall, fair, but heavy. These two persons are there. अब आइस एज के लिए स्टॉकी बिल्ड होना जरूरी है, फेयर कंप्लेक्शन एंड सबक्यूटेनियस फैट और हैवीनेस इन बॉडी. अब इन दोनों में देखें, the first one is the model organism for ice age. So this organism is likely to have better reproductive success than the other person B. So in this way, this difference in their reproductive success, it is called differential reproductive success or differential reproduction. So अब नेचुरल सिलेक्शन के तीनों प्रिंसिपल्स को एक बाय वन देखते हैं with example. Same hypothetical situation, ice age, three persons, heavy, short, fair. Another one, tall, fair, and heavy. And third one is tall, black, and thin. तीन situation, A, B, and C. First, natural selection का first principle, that is variation. So natural selection means that adaptive traits will help in the survival of an organism. So अब इस नेचुरल कंडीशन आइस एज के लिए जो अडेप्टिव ट्रेट्स हैं, दैट इज हैवीनेस इन बॉडी, शॉर्ट स्टेचर एंड फेयर कंप्लेक्शन. अब ये अडेप्टिव ट्रेट्स हैं जिनके अंदर भी होंगे वो वो सर्वाइव करेंगे. देन पॉपुलेशन इज नॉट होमोजीनियस, पॉपुलेशन में वेरिएशंस होते हैं. सो फर्स्ट यू कैन सी वेरिएशंस इन देयर जीनोटाइप एंड फिनोटाइप. तीनों के अंदर वेरिएशंस हैं. First one is heavy, short, and fair. Second one is tall, fair, and heavy. And third one is tall, black, and thin. So this presence of variation is the first condition for natural selection to act. Then second principle होता है heritability. Heritability means that there should be a mechanism to transmit genes from one generation to another, which is reproduction. So reproduction should be there. अदरवाइज अगर पॉपुलेशन आगे नहीं बढ़ रही है, इफ यू आर नॉट रिप्रोड्यूसिंग, तो नेचुरल सिलेक्शन का मतलब ही नहीं. नेचुरल सिलेक्शन इज अ लॉन्ग प्रोसेस, इज एन एक्सट्रीमली स्लो प्रोसेस, by which I mean that natural selection it works on population. इंडिविजुअल वेरिएशंस को वो होता है, बट इट्स नॉट दैट एक ही जनरेशन में नहीं होते तो एक ही जनरेशन में पर्टिकुलर जो इंडिविजुअल है, पर्टिकुलर फैमिली है विद मॉल अडेप्टिव ट्रेट्स, दे आर गोइंग टू पेरिश. ऐसा नहीं होगा. इट विल टेक सम टाइम. एंड उसके लिए हेरिटेबिलिटी या रिप्रोडक्शन भी तो जरूरी है. देन सेकेंड कंडीशन इज बीइंग explained here, has been explained, and the third is differential reproduction, which means अब इन तीनों में से whoever is going to have more offspring, it depends on their characteristic, and by their analysis of their genetic and phenotypical composition, it seems A is the best suitable for this atmosphere, then followed by B. So A and B are going to be winner and this runner, and this C, it is going to be eliminated. और वो कैसे पता चलेगा कि who is being selected and who has been eliminated? वो होगा उनकी reproductive success से. Because अगर traits adaptive नहीं है तो then they are not going to reproduce well, which means फर्स्ट दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू एंश्योर देयर ओन सर्वाइवल. फिर उनका सर्वाइवल भी हो गया, देन दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू एंश्योर द सर्वाइवल ऑफ द चिल्ड्रन. और वो भी हो गया तो अप टू अ फ्यू जनरेशन उनके माल अडेप्टिव ट्रेट्स हैं, उनकी रिप्रोडक्टिव सक्सेस भी तो बहुत कम होगी. इट्स नॉट दैट द पर्सन हु इज best suited to a particular environment will have the same reproductive success as the person who is not selected, who is not suited to that environment. ये तो क्लियरली समझ में आता है दैट पर्सन हु इज बेस्ट सुटेड will have more mating partners, will have more reproductive success, will have more children, more offspring, and more lineages. And those who are not selected, they somehow in a few years or in a few generations, they are likely to feel the difference. And this difference in number of surviving children, it is known as differential reproduction. So A will have the most number of children that survive, followed by B, and C will likely to follow the trail. So this is the third principle of natural selection. So here the answer is given because better adapted individuals generally produce more offspring over generations than poor adapted individuals. So the frequency of adaptive traits, it increases in the successful generation in subsequent manner. So this is what the frequency of adaptive traits has been talked about here. So this is it. We will start with adaptive and maladaptive traits in the next chapter. Thank you very much. Kindly subscribe the channel.